Nobody to test our thumbs up for this morning. Okay, let's gavel in. That's a call to order at this time. I'd like everybody at this time to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States of America and to our Texas flag. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
I really like that we do that. It's amazing how many people don't know the Texas, right? It's nice. Okay, so at this time, let me, for the clerk's notations, it's 9:04 a.m. And we are third floor at Nueces County Commissioner's Courtroom at the Nueces County Courthouse at 901 North Leopard. I'm going to certify that we do have a quorum present. Commissioner Hernandez is here, Commissioner Chesney is here, I'm myself. We'll wait. We might have some, we do allow, and the law allows for people to participate online, including commissioners, as long as we have, a quorum. So if I see them jump on, I'll be sure and recognize them and let the audience know as well. At this time, I'm going to ask Belinda to, or Kara, let's see. There's a public comment roster sign-in sheet, and I'm going to need that at this, okay, it's coming around the mountain. Okay, hold on. We have 2 items on our regular agenda. Thank you. Okay, I'm just going to call you in the order that, hey, Mackie, that you were listed. And the first is Rolando Garza. Okay, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Honorable Judge and County Commissioners. I'm here to speak on an agenda item, but I have to go to a doctor's appointment, so I wanted to speak first. What brings me here today is the agenda item about redistricting Judge Jang's district with only 1 precinct. And it brought to mind a lot of things that the Taxpayers Association used to bring up in class action lawsuits or local lawsuits against politicians or local entities and things like that. And I was also reading the kind of things that would come about should something so unjust without the voter approval taking place, that the legislators have to form a board for redistricting. There has to be outreach to communities. There's a big process to be done. And I think for anyone to arbitrarily set a precedence for change out a precinct to eliminate a candidate, and I'll tell you about eliminating a candidate that it was forecast. I found out last Monday. So that means that someone knowingly, willfully, and intentionally set out to remove a candidate to run in this precinct 2. So in knowing that upsets me a whole lot. And I've been involved for civil rights for 34 years in human rights and labor rights. And I think I said that before. I've stated that before you before. And it disturbs me because of the lawsuits that could come afterwards. There's merit, validity, there's damages, there's standing. Any voter from that precinct can bring up a lawsuit against the county and challenge these things. That's why the state legislators have a process that they follow. It just doesn't spring out of the blues over a week or two. It says right before election time, I'm going to change 1 precinct and carve out my guy. Now, the reason I'll continue to say that, because I think it's just an injustice. So I asked the commissioners today if they could just vote this thing down, let it go away. We need to back up, rethink it, and maybe for the next cycle, if there's someone who wants to redistrict that feels that their district's boundaries are different, they want to make those changes. We do it slow process through the voting process. You can't circumvent the voters' rights. We have a right to vote on things such as this, like bond elections, things like that, things that affect the voter group here that we have in our community. And I just think it's just a huge injustice, a miscarriage of justice to go ahead and, for the commissioners, I ask you, I think that it'd be to your benefit to not collude in something that's so drastic in changing the atmosphere of elections. Otherwise, we'd have city council and school board members and everybody doing the same thing, and we'd have the same candidates running all the time. Every year, they just carve out one district and they eliminate their opponents. And that's a horrible precedence to set. I think that if legislators are held to a higher standard, that the county that represents the state should be held to the same standard, that a process be followed or and a committee be developed. That's what I have to say about that today, and I'm hoping and praying in my prayers that these commissioners that are here present with us today vote this down and not collude and not be involved, because there are, I think if anybody's hurt their own campaign, it's been the one that's making the changes. I think he's hurt his campaign, and this is embarrassing for our community. And I believe in you. I believe in you, County Judge. I believe in Brent and Robert will do the right thing for our community. Thank you so much. God bless you. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Mr. Garza. The next person that signed up is Lewis, and I think, is it Whetstone? Whetstone.
Yes.
Welcome, Lewis.
Thank you, Judge Canales.
Yes,
Appreciate you guys hearing us today
absolutely.
about the redistricting issue. I have been in this community my whole life and have not been involved in politics. I've watched politics from a distance. Decided to get in politics to support Larry Elizondo. He's a friend of mine I've known for my whole life. And I've watched politics from a distance, and I've seen things that have gone on that I haven't agreed with. But this is really blatant for this to come up after he decides to run for Precinct 2 County Commissioner, and all of a sudden redistricting happens. And I just think it's a travesty that it happens like this. This is ridiculous. It really goes against everything that we think of as being Americans, about doing the right thing and allowing people who want to do the right thing to have that opportunity. And I'm going to be very brief. I just think it's a travesty, and I would just pray and hope that we rethink this and not do this, because it's pretty obvious what happened. Pretty obvious to me, and it's pretty obvious to a lot of people I know, that this redistricting was done for one reason and one reason alone: to eliminate Larry from this election. So thank you.
Thank you. We'll next hear from Becky Moeller.
Becky Moeller, 7217 Sparkle C, Corpus Christi, Texas. I had been impressed until yesterday with the transparency, Judge, that you and the commissioners and everyone had applied to the process. So you can imagine the shock when I find out at the last minute that we swapped precincts just for the purpose, in my opinion, of cutting out a candidate. I had not yet made a final decision on where I was going to be in that race. I had listened to both of them. I had been to functions for both of them. But you know what? Liars and cheaters should not be allowed to win. Liars and cheaters should not be allowed to run. My decision was made. Unfortunately, now my candidate was cut out of the process. You know, when I was here a couple of weeks ago, I mentioned the state process and how awful it was that we let some things happen. I never dreamed that several of commissioners that I have worked for in the past would do this to our community. I am ashamed. I am ashamed. I am ashamed. Thank you.
The next person we'll hear from is Roland Medrano.
I would like to introduce myself. I'm a former employee of Nueces County. I worked for the county for 31 years, and my last position was Director of Human Services. I worked three doors down from Commissioner's Court. I worked under Peggy Banales, Betty Jean Longoria, Commissioner Oscar Ortiz, and Jerry Shamsi. Anyway, during that time, I had a very good relationship with Commissioner's Court. They would call me and check on in my Department of Human Services, in the old days was called the Welfare Department. So we dealt with helping the needy, and some of our issues were the colonias. We were trying to get infrastructure for the colonias. We dealt with pauper burials, trying, helping the needy get buried and so on. And anyway, the commissioners would call me on a regular basis, and we had a good relationship. When Jag came in, and I hate to say this, I never got a call from him. He never checked on the poor people. He never cared to check on the infrastructure for the colonias or things like that. And I found that very unusual because he was Hispanic, and I thought that he would be concerned with those issues. When I found out Larry Elizondo was running for commissioner, I got very excited and decided to, support him. And I'm very disappointed that he is being eliminated by redistricting. And actually, I see it as gerrymandering, which is illegal. And I just want to let you know that I'm very disappointed. I am supporting Larry Elizondo. He worked for Citgo for many, many years and helped a lot of charitable organizations, including my department. And he was always available to help the needy. And that's what I'm concerned about. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, you may. Ms. Belinda, would you pass this back for more signatures? Anyone else wishing to make public comment, we're going to circulate that. And whenever you're ready. Yes, sir, you may proceed. Forgive me.
Thank you. My name is Leonel Lopez. I work with South Texas Colonia Initiatives. I think this is horrible what has happened because it happened to me. I was just what is, and I don't endorse anybody. We don't endorse anybody, no candidates. But what is happening here has happened to South Texas Colonia Initiatives. I don't like to mention any names here, but I am very transparent. Our organization is very transparent. A few years back, Commissioner Gonzalez told me that I couldn't help the colonias that were registered. That he and another person were going to take care of them. And that if I wanted to, I could take care of the colonias that were unregistered. And so when I got a call last night about this, I couldn't believe it. I could not believe what was happening. I hate bullies. Ever since I was in school, I hated bullies. I cannot stand that. So when I told Commissioner Gonzalez he was not my boss, I didn't work for the county, and he couldn't tell me what to do, I wrote a note to Judge Neal. What was happening, nothing was done. So he and this other person had an office, and they were going to start a nonprofit to help the colonias that were registered under the state, the Secretary of State. I said, Joe, this is a conflict of interest. You can't do that. So nothing was done, and he couldn't start a nonprofit. But this went on for a year, maybe 2 years, but nothing was done. So I believe what these people are saying. And I don't know, I can write a book. I can write a book of what's going on.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to ask if there's any further public comment at this time. Yes, ma'am. I'll call on Lalisa Hernandez.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Lalisa Hernandez. I live in Saxett Heights on Villa Drive. And 10 years ago, I sued Nueces County on redistricting over one precinct. The guy who was sitting where Robert Hernandez is right now, Mike Pusley, had moved one precinct into his district, and it significantly changed the voter impact, voter outreach, and ultimately the voter outcome of the district, and would for the next 10 years. So the Justice Department joined my lawsuit, and we won over one precinct because the county left itself up and open to liability over that one precinct. When the Voting Rights Act was gutted in 2013, the Congressional Hispanic Caucus released a press statement saying 10 reasons why the Voting Rights Act remained relevant. Number 10 was Hernandez versus Nueces County and the power of one precinct impacting a community. That is exactly what is occurring here under the plan that you all are proposing for Nueces County to live under for the next decade. One precinct at the last minute, that the only justifiable reason for removing it from District Precinct 2 is because of a candidate that is living in that precinct. It's outrageous, it's shameful. I helped Commissioner Robert Hernandez in his campaign, and I urge you to do the right thing by our community by rejecting this overtly shameful act of removing one precinct. Now, Commissioner Chesney, we've not worked together, but I would ask you and beg you to also do the right thing by our community. One precinct still matters. And for this act to occur at the last minute is shameful. So I encourage you to reject this current plan and put that precinct back into Precinct 2. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person to sign up is Joseph Ramirez. And for those walking in, I do have a public sign-up sheet, so if anyone walking in wants to comment, just let Belinda know. Actually, I'll just put it back there.
I've just let Commissioner Modas in.
And Commissioner Modis has joined for the record, Ms. Sands. Also, Suzanne Guggenheim, I'm not ignoring you. I saw your hand. I've got one more physical person in the room, and then I'll move straight to your public comment, if you still wish to make it. Joseph Ramirez.
Good morning, Judge, Commissioners, and the audience. We've heard people here talk about today why they're here, and those reasons seem very personal to them. It should count for something here in this court with you guys. We all know the saying, all politics is local, and we know the anger, like Mr. Rowland said earlier, about what happened in the State House and Becky as well, and how furious we were over redistricting at that point. But here, locally, in Nueces County, it's very clear of the political theater where you are able to decide an election by the power of incumbency up there. So although everybody here has given personal reasons and kind of pleaded with the commissioners on the actions you can take today, I'm here in a more practical reason to basically ask a question, maybe hear discussion on the transparency of the process of which came here. What was it, Thursday night, Wednesday night? Everybody left thinking that it was very transparent. And then after conversations were had yesterday, we learned that they weren't as transparent, that commissioners here might have reached out to counsel. And although, like it said, what was done was basically legal, in the court of public opinion, by you choosing your representative and not letting the voters do it, I think is wrong. And we want to know, was that specifically asked, that somebody asked your redistricting attorneys to swap out that one precinct to remove a political rival? And again, although not illegal, it is doesn't pass the smell test, and we would like answers. I think that's what everybody here in this courtroom today would like to know the answer to that. Was that specifically done in this process? Was it specifically asked that a political rival be removed from the running after he had shown his intent to run, after he had legally filed for treasurer, after he had held several campaign and fundraising events, after he has put up signs in people's yards, formed a committee, hired a staff, and then within 72 hours of the filing date, be removed from that race by just what was said just now. So I know you guys cannot answer in public comment, but I hope that when you go to this agenda item and discuss it, I hope that is one of the questions that's brought up. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience here today that would like to make public comment? Okay, thank you. I'll move to Suzanne Guggenheim. She's online, and we'll ask her to unmute at this time, and we welcome your public comment.
Yes, good morning. Thank you, Judge, for letting me in. And I think I will talk pretty much in the same sense than the previous attendees. I think at 1 day away from filing time, I would really request no change be made. We had a good map, I think in map 1, that does the minimum of changes. People right now are wary of changes. They don't trust what is being done at all levels by the government. We need to give them that trust back by making sure we don't give the impression that we are manipulating what we can. So I really hope that we will stick with it and not make change that people will be wary of. So let's hope that today we resolve this and that tomorrow filing can start properly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Guggenheim. Is there anybody else online that would like to make a comment? Okay, what I'm going to do is ask that you all stay because we will address it. But first, there is an agenda item that precedes it. It's very important, and it's the canvassing of our election, our constitutional amendment election, which occurred on November the 2nd. And the reason I'm taking it first is because we actually want to get it to the state, in fact, this morning. And so, commissioners, before you is a copy. You have a manila, you have a manila folder in front of you, and it shows the returns, the official results for our Nueces County 2021 joint constitutional election. And I will pivot quickly, for efficiency's sake, to County Clerk Sands. She'll explain further as to what is needed at this time.
Well, thank you, Judge. At this time, we need your approval that these are and I certified that these are the real results, that every legal vote has been counted, the ballot board has met for their second time, they have processed the provisional ballots, so every vote for every precinct and every constitutional amendment, every proposition is listed, and these are accurate results. And this is only Nueces County. We have the other entities that joined us, they are canvassing their elections. So this is only Nueces County constitutional propositions.
And I'll go ahead and make the motion to accept these as official results. I'm going to ask you a quick question when I get to the discussion part, but I've got a motion and a second, and I'd call for any questions or discussions at this time. What I wanted to ask you is that, we noticed how low the turnout was.
Right.
Do you want to just make a quick comment on, just so that the audience can appreciate, because you have a lot of people here that care about the democratic process. We had a very low voter turnout.
We did. Unfortunately, we mirrored
That with
turnout.
everybody.
Constitutional amendment elections are very important, and unfortunately, people just don't feel the same way. I hear a lot that if there's a person is not on the ballot, it doesn't matter. Another thing, really, they're confusing, right? The way that the propositions are written. I hear that a lot, that why are they written this way? It's very confusing to folks. I wish that the legislature would pass a bill that they have to write in plain language, right? Is not to confuse voters. I think that's very important.
Constitutional amendment to do that.
Right, exactly. It would be very confusing too.
So
But that's
what
fine.
was our average? What was our?
I think what we had, like 6-7%.
That's what I was gonna say.
About the same and across the state.
Okay,
It's
so
the
what, just
same.
so you guys know, it's a very low,
is.
low turnout. But I will say, the one that I was looking for, that
Yeah.
affected counties did pass.
Yes, it did. In fact, they all passed. I also say that, we worked together with both parties, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, and with y'all, and we had 52 voting locations on Election Day, and we had 11 early voting locations. So there's ample.
We did our part.
We did our part. We gave everyone that wanted to vote an easily accessible location to vote, and that's what we do.
Yeah,
So-
I voted at La Retama, and I just want to say to those election judges and volunteers, they do a great job. If you haven't voted at La Retama, from the safety aspect in your Q-tip, all the way to the friendly factor, to the location, it was really wonderful. Of course, here at the courthouse, we had early voting, and a lot of people availed themselves of that as well. I have a motion and a second. Those were my comments that I wanted to make.
Thank you.
Looks like maybe, anybody? Okay. All those in favor of accepting these official results for the 2021 joint constitutional election as provided to you by our county clerk and certified by the county clerk, please signify by saying aye.
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 Pose same sign.
Can I say one thing?
Yes.
Judge? Thank you. Thank all of you for your support. And you know what? Thank you for thanking the election judges at La Retama. We cannot have an election without these presiding judges, alternate judges, all the clerks, everyone that works elections. It takes a huge team. So I have
And
a
we
great staff.
raised,
thank you.
as a court, we raised the hourly amount of salary.
Yes.
And I'm glad, because I think that they deserve that, so.
And they appreciate it, and thank you. So.
Yes. Okay, so I will move on then to item number 2, which is to discuss and consider adopting an order establishing new commissioner precinct boundaries for the purposes of redistricting related to the 2020 U.S. Census. I do want to note for the record that our counsel, Jose Garza, has joined us via Zoom. And I guess I'm going to open up, and I do want to ask a few questions, but I want to create a little bit of dialogue based upon the public comment that I've heard this morning. And I usually don't feel this way, even when people do things to me or personally or politically. Usually I come out boxing. That's just my nature. I feel really, I'm very sad, and I'm really, like, my heart is beating really fast because I'm not used to this. I'm not used to coming into court where on Wednesday I felt so good about one man, one vote. I felt so good about having the League of Women Voters, a nonpartisan group that we as electeds look to provide guidance. We had an expert in the room, not only with our own counsel, but with Mr. Dowling, who had spent countless of hours. I felt good about establishing the concept of an independent redistricting commission working group. I felt good about the minority populations that we had established. I felt good about saying, hey, Bishop's not in, that's a community of interest, we need to get that in. I felt good when Commissioner Chesney said, hey, I like representing my folks. I really want to keep only one precinct split. We gave time for Jose Garza to go work those numbers. We asked questions, and I felt good. I went to my office, didn't talk to anybody, just went to my office to work, came out, understanding that when I said it was an open, fair, and transparent process, I meant it. For me. I think that what we have alluded to needs further explanation because the people have the right to understand what transpired. And it's up to them to decide how they feel about it. For my part, as a county judge under the judicial canon of ethics, particularly when we have political seasons, we don't endorse, we don't get involved in that regard on a personal level. But what I think that we are committed to doing here as a court is just saying, here's what we did. And we have to make sure it's constitutional. That means a deviation has to be below 10%. We have to make sure, in my opinion, that we're doing everything by Hernandez versus Nueces, which is to make sure that we have been equitable, in our populations. Because we don't have pre-clearance anymore, I took those mantras very seriously. That's the only thing I looked at. I don't know where people live. All I wanted to make certain of is that we had one man, one vote, and we had standard deviations that met that one man, one vote, that we made sure we carried about the concept that we're going to grow as a community, and certain precincts are growing big time, and we were 35%. We were 3.5 times constitutional. We had to change. That there was no way around it. And I expected that every commissioner was going to feel like they had certain things they wanted, and we were going to talk about them, and we did. But what was not known or was not told is that a political opponent was cut out of that precinct and added to precinct 4. And whether it's legal or not, I'm certain it's legal because Mr. Garza would do nothing to represent anything illegal. I want you to know that as a judge. He would never, ever do that. So nothing illegal has transpired here. But I want to be clear. I do not want to be a part and was not a part of the lack of transparency. If you're proud to take that precinct out, then be proud to say that you did it. If you were more worried on Wednesday night about the fact that you missed Bishop, then you should have been also just as clear and apologetic about taking out Precinct 3. That was not told to me. It was not told to the public. And again, it is not illegal because Mr. Garza would never let us do that. But we have the power to amend, I believe, but I'm going to ask Mr. Garza. And my motion in just a moment will be to amend such that the deviation, again, I'm very adamant about having a super low deviation and adamant about the Hispanic, the populations to be in cooperation with where we were. But if you want to stand up here and have the League of Women Voters cheer you and applaud you because you were fair and transparent, we do not deserve that. But I know that I had no knowledge of it. And what I want to know is who did. Because you owe an explanation to this court. Not because you did anything illegal, but because you sat there and allowed people to cheer for you, that you were fair, open, and transparent. Now, I don't have the answer today. I mean, this exact moment, because we would need to, if I'm going to make a motion to amend that precinct 3 be brought back in to precinct, I'm sorry, it's kind of confusing, right? If the voting precinct would be brought back into 2, then obviously it would not be in 4, and Commissioner Chesney would have the right to make that correct again for his precinct. So in words, he would have to get maybe a precinct, another precinct to make up for those amount of voters that he has absorbed in precinct 3. And for that, I would have to ask those questions of Jose Garza. I also wish that Commissioner Gonzalez, and in fairness to him, he did tell us on Wednesday that he could not be available on Friday before I knew about this. But I think he should, when somebody says something like we've heard in public comment, and again, I feel like, I wish he could jump on the phone, and I'm even willing to recess to ask him if he would do that, because he has a right to answer, right? I mean, that's important. If you're going to say fairness matters in this courtroom and to our public, then it must be fair. Maybe there's another reason that I don't know about. I want to be able to say, let us know what it was. But again, I want to reiterate that, a lot of things are painful about politics. And I was determined that we would do this right because it had been done so wrong before. And so for me, the way we did it was we had so little time. We do have to adopt an order today. That's a must, by the way, okay? But we had so little time. And I'm not negating the fact that I think we did a great job on that one man, one vote and the Hispanic population, all that. But when there's a piece of it that's sort of being very misleading, we have to address that. Well, I have to address you. I have to tell you, I did not know anything about that. And I would have never at least gone away without saying, you must share that. If you're proud of it, if you asked for it, if there's nothing illegal about it, then just tell us about it. Because I think all of us would have had something to say about that. And that way, I could have, at least had the feeling that we voted in a democratic process, understanding the consequences of our actions. But again, I don't go around asking people where they live when they file for office. And by the way, this has happened many times before in Texas politics. We're not the first, we're not the last, sadly. But don't let them cheer for you. Don't come in, don't do that. Don't be disingenuous. I'll tell you one thing I am, and I'm proud of it. I'm real. I say what I mean, and I do what I say. And I'm very, very disturbed by the lack of transparency of what happened with regards to that precinct. Commissioners, I need to ask Counselor Jose Garza. Jose, do we have the right to amend today? And would I be able to ask a question for the benefit of the court if that particular, if it was the will, and it may not be, okay, I may be, this is a question, it's a query, but if it was the will of the court, could we ask whether or not that precinct that was changed into precinct 4, and remember, we were trying to lose people from precinct 4, not gain it, right? If this particular precinct was moved in for this particular reason, would we be able to offset that if we moved it back, but then Mr. Chesney would need more population? And I know we sliced and diced 125, or there might be another one, and I'll let Commissioner Chesney tell us what he thinks about, but he wanted to have all his people, so maybe he can have all his people in 125. Or at least more of them to offset 3. So that's 2 questions. Can we amend? And could we look at what the breakdown would be if that was the court's will?
So if I could preface the answer to those questions with sort of my role in this. So let me start by saying that I was not instructed or urged by any of the commissioners in the structure of Plan BB. Now, I've had numerous conversations with most of the commissioners or all of the commissioners and with county judge. And I've not been instructed on particular precincts, except in the last meeting in which we had discussions about Robstown and Bishop. And that's the only instance in which specific precincts were urged. My purpose in drawing the plan, as I did, BB, which we modified to BBB, was to address the 3 issues that, Your Honor, you've mentioned. Compliance with 1 person, 1 vote, making sure that the minority opportunity districts are maintained, and to address the redistricting principles that we've been talking about, compactness, contiguity, et cetera. So with regard to voting precinct 3, I was not instructed specifically to move it in one direction or the other. What I was looking at is a straight line and making the district more compact and making the population as equal as possible. And you're absolutely correct. Commissioner Chesney consistently has urged me not to move precincts out of his district unless I thought it was important for 1 person, 1 vote. Precinct 3, voting precinct 3 is not important in terms of 1 person, 1 vote. It does make the districts more compact. So that has to sort of preface my then legal discussions here. Yes, it is, as I understand the agenda item that's been placed before the court, it would be legal for the commissioners to take up the redistricting plan and either adopt a substitute plan or amend BBB. And the answer to the second question, Your Honor, is that yes, you can move precinct 3 back, voting precinct 3 back into Commissioner Precinct 2 and balance out the population so that you don't diminish the importance of 1 person, 1 vote by moving population from precinct 125 back into Commissioner Precinct 4, which I assume Commissioner Chesney would be all right with, because 125 has been consistently in his district, in his Commissioner Precinct district, and that would be moving population from that precinct back into his district. As it stands now in BBB, Precinct 125 is split, so it would be less split if we move some of that population back into Commissioner Precinct 4. And Mr. Rios is on the line, and he can actually go through that process so we can see exactly what impact that would have if we move Commissioner Voting Precinct 3 back into Commissioner Precinct 2, and if we can balance that out with the population from 125. My guess is that we can. My guess is also that that would not adversely impact the goals that the Commissioners Court has set about protecting the minority voting interests. And I think we could come up with a balanced population that is equivalent or pretty close to equivalent to what we achieved on Wednesday night with the balance of population.
Judge,
Would you be in,
Glenn, your comment about Commissioner Gonzalez not being here is very relevant. If, in fact, you desire, or the court desires to do what it sounds like you're heading towards doing, we at least need to do that with a full court. And I think it is important to note Mr. Garza's explanation, who repeatedly said twice that no one did anything wrong here and no one asked for precincts to be moved around, because I think that's a very compelling statement. And I repeatedly throughout.
I'm gonna help you, just,
Oh,
I wanna help you.
Okay.
And if I can let you know,
Yeah.
Jack's assistant has let us know that he is available at 10:30.
Okay, I was gonna say, I just want you to know that.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, then, that's one thing. And then, but I think it's really important to note, because I get people are suspect, but Mr. Garza just came online and said twice in his conversations, and quite honestly, I called him yesterday and said, and asked him the same question, and he said twice in his conversation here, and he said to me yesterday, and that no one asked him to move precincts around, no one, because it didn't happen, right? And he's just said that. So I think that's a real important part of this transparency. Now, that's part A. Part B is getting Commissioner Gonzalez here to be here. So do we recess till 10:30? And
So-
because I don't think it's even fair to start any of this,
So,
because go ahead.
Two things. Yes, I'm willing to recess, okay? But first of all, this document, for the record, is what we put online and what all commissioners know about. And this is what we call a posted meeting. And you have an obligation as an elected to be at these posted meetings. And I hear you, and I'm going to, because of the nature of it, I'm happy to recess. But let's be very clear. If you're an elected, you're supposed to be here. You're not supposed to call and say, hey, we're discussing something important, you need to jump online. But I understand it, and I'll do that.
Hold on, Judge. That's
I'll
not
do
fair.
that.
Judge, I have an issue with that though, because I'll tell you, last week, this item would not have even been on the agenda unless I asked Belinda to place it on there. I was looking at what is worst case scenario. If we don't come to some sort of decision come Wednesday, then we need to have something posted for Friday, because Thursday would not be a carryover for recess from Wednesday because the courthouse was closed, right? And I'm saying this not because I'm choosing sides on this. I'm saying because we would never even have this. I have an issue even discussing this because we dealt with it on Wednesday, right? And that may make some of my friends mad. That may make some of my friends think that I'm supporting one side or the other, and that's furthest from the case, let me tell you. But I have an issue with that this was never on the agenda, and we agreed to and signed these orders on Wednesday. And so I was not even going to be on this meeting until I received a text message that all this was going on, because when we left Wednesday, all I knew and all I was told was we only need commissioners here on Wednesday to canvass the vote, and that was it. When I realized that there was more, then obviously I rushed to get online because I can't be there physically. I have a commitment this morning, and 10:30 may not work for me. So there's several issues that I have with all of this, and I want to know, I mean.
But until we address it, it's still a posted agenda item. In other words, I still have to deal with it because we did that, even if it's a backup, it still has to be tended to. I hear you, and like I said, we're gonna ask
Well, thank God-
Commissioner
Thank God
Gonzalez.
that I asked for that then.
Thank
God that
God.
I did, because we would have never had
You're right.
this discussion.
You're absolutely
But-
right. I want to thank you because that was smart.
Well, Judge, and I think we have to, if you're trying to open up the process, then it needs to be fully reopened and stated for a full meeting and redo this all over again, because we had 50 people in here who all agreed, and I don't think it's fair on a Friday afternoon when nobody, or Friday morning when nobody even knows that this is where this was going, to just say, let's just amend. It's not that easy. There was numbers that came back from Jose that were a little different than what I said. I mean, there's all kinds of things that we could start over on this conversation, of which, if that's what the court wants to do, then I don't think it's a simple, and it's
Well-
not fair to fix it for one guy either. So in other words.
Nor is it
because-
fair to deny the
Agreed.
voters for either.
Agreed.
I
So
mean,
I'm
we
saying
did
this
not
can't
put
be a
that up,
part.
right? That was not discussed.
I agree. And I don't think it can be these 8 people who show up. We need to include everybody. We need to give everybody opportunity to be here.
I will tell you,
Everybody.
I
That's
will tell
okay,
you
but
that,
that's the thing.
that
But-
I'm gonna discuss that with the county attorney when we take a break as to what our options are on time. But what I can tell you is that, and Mr. Garza, I would ask if you could please, stay on the line, but
Because Mr. Garza drew this with no specific input from any commissioner or judge on precincts.
Okay.
And he too probably
I-
didn't know where anybody lived.
Mr. Garza?
I mean,
I
that's-
know you did not know where anybody lived, but I think you know that I'm gonna ask a little bit harder questions, and they're gonna be a little bit more direct. And even though we entrusted you to draw the lines, I don't think it's a fair representation after my dialogue with you yesterday to try and articulate to this court that it was not known or contemplated that at the time, somebody could be cut out. As you had said to me, it's done all over Texas. This is not the first commissioner's court to X out a political opponent. But it is, I wanted to stop you, Brent, but I couldn't quick enough because I just couldn't do it. But I don't believe if we were to probe further, that it would be a true statement that there was not input, desire, and/or consequence to eliminate and put that particular precinct. This is not a coincidence, and it's not it was deliberate, and the question was asked. And if you want me to keep going down the line, you will not like the answers. And so what I'm saying to you is please hold on that thought.
Sure.
But I'm with you and really appreciate that you would want to follow what I would call a fair process. Because what was done was not transparent. It may not have been illegal, but it was not transparent. And just so you know, I do believe, after speaking with people who understand the set of facts, that there was a deliberate attempt to remove precinct 3 and bring it to you. And you must have at least noticed that you inherited a precinct.
Judge, you'll remember.
I mean, I'm not blaming you. I'm just
I
saying you
appreciate
must
that.
have noticed that,
Well,
right?
sure. If you remember, to the bitter end, I begged this court to not give me additional precincts and to let me keep more of my
Right.
precincts.
So that's what
So
I'm
of
going to
course
give
I
you
did
an
this.
option to do
Of course I know.
today.
Well, no, but
We're
I'm
going to
just
have
saying-
the court will be able to give you back your 125 so that the voters get to make decisions in an open and transparent way, because we didn't afford them that right, because precinct 3 was given to you for reasons that were not one man, one vote, and they were given to you, and that was, Mr. Garza may not have known the effect of it, but that's exactly what happened. And that's it, and again, we have a choice to make. And that choice is, once it's known to us, what will we do? Once you've seen it, how will you unsee it? This is not a matter of one man, one vote, or Hispanic population disparity, or even, neighborhoods of interest. Now, compactness is important, And we have argued compactness, but it was compactness that got us to the Bishop situation, and we changed that. So, Mr. Thurman, would you like to make public comment? I would. I'd be happy to hear from you. The only reason I ask you, Paul, is because I value your opinion, and so if you're shaking your head, I want to make sure that what we're saying, that you would be happy to share it with me.
Well, and I would be happy to share. And I just want to say that this is me, not the commissioner.
Fair
I have
enough.
seen the process from the beginning, and I have not seen anything for what these people are saying. It was a 5-0 vote. It crossed party lines. The League of Women Voters praised the process. It was open. We had how many meetings did we have? 2. Where was the or 3? My apologies. Where was the candidate? They didn't know. Well, the candidate should have been here.
Hold
Hey,
on.
let me tell you. But here's the thing.
Judge, the audience can't be dialoguing
Look,
together.
you can't be dialoguing.
Thank you, that's right, no dialogue, thank you for that.
But
No dialogue, no
But
dialogue.
here's the thing. Even so, if I wanted to run, and I do have someone who wants to run, they were just kicked out of their district. Do we just call them and we're going to change it for them as well? No, you don't do that. It was fair and balanced. Let me go on to say there is an email from Mr. Garza that Commissioner Chesney wrote. He wanted to affirm. Let me just read it. It says, "Thank you for your time today. I would like to reaffirm what we talked about today. You and I had private discussion at one point during our redistricting process regarding additional voting precincts being added to Precinct 4. I called you and asked why an additional precinct was proposed to be added when I already gave up other voting precincts in my precinct. Hold on. Proposed to be added when I already give up other voting precincts in my precinct because my precinct was over the legal limit when I could help. During that time, I made it very clear to you that when I did this throughout the public process, that while I would be honored to represent anyone, I did not want to change. I asked you to relay that to Commissioner Gonzalez since I was not communicating with him during the redistricting process that I was unable to take any additional voting precincts. You indicated to me you had relayed that information to Commissioner Gonzalez. And, I mean, he's online, he can confirm that that is what happened himself. So, what you're doing, if you do move someone back into a precinct because he was pushed out, that is, in my opinion, gerrymandering.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for your, for the comments, and thanks for actually reading the email, because that was good too. But I don't think that changes anything, doesn't change my comments at all. I agree with you. I loved what we did. I loved the public hearings. I loved all the public notices. All of those things, Paul, that you just said, I totally agree with. I loved the process. What I'm suggesting is that it's come to my attention and to the court's attention through public comment and yesterday's activities that there was something that wasn't done transparent or public. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that the process, I thought, was transparent and fair, apparently there was another motive. And if it's okay, we would like to talk about that motive. And that's where I thought we were being recognized for something that wasn't true. And that is why I think public comment is being heard today. And we do have the right to amend. And it was dumb luck, as Commissioner Mata says, dumb luck that it was placed on an agenda for today. Maybe it was not for that purpose, but God does work in mysterious ways. Timothy Dowling has raised his hand online. Would you mind unmuting him, Connie? Oh, actually, he is unmuted.
Good morning, Judge. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
I apologize, but I'm getting on this call late, and I thought we had everything finished on Wednesday night when I was there, and I was wondering if you could kind of bring me and some other folks online who just got online very recently. What's the issue and what's What's going on?
Judge, I think we're really getting, I mean, we're supposed to be waiting for Commissioner Gonzalez, and we're getting farther and farther into this to where he's not hearing any of this. And like Commissioner Morris said, I wasn't gonna be here either because it was only gonna be a canvas meeting, and then somehow this got posted that I didn't know we had it on here either, so I showed up to make a physical quorum. But I just don't think it's fair to piecemeal without Commissioner Gonzalez here, so I think we need
Okay.
to recess and let him, if he wants to come in and make comment on this.
I'm
let him.
happy to, but let me just inform Mr. Dowling, the issue is that we've had, as you know, on Wednesday, there was a posted agenda on Friday in case we had any.
Judge, I'm sorry, but Commissioner Hernandez just left, so we
Yes.
no longer have a physical quorum.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Dowling, we'll have to recess here. We're going to recess until 10:30 this morning. And it's 10 o'clock. Commissioner Gonzalez is going to join us at 10:30 this morning. So we'll stand in recess. By the way, the rules, guys, are that even though we have a quorum with the number, you have to have a physical quorum of 3. So when Mr. Hernandez leaves the room, we lose the quorum, okay? If he comes back, then we gain the quorum. But we wanted to recess anyway. I was just going to explain to Tim what was going on. I'll have Belinda call you right now, Tim, okay?
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. For those of you online, you'll just need to know that you'll see nothing except for meeting is in recess until 10:30, and they'll stand in recess till 10:30.
I guess, Judge, what do we get?
Test. Okay, for those of you online, we are now back on the record. We were in recess by agreement here at the court, and it's now 11:03 a.m. And we do have the opportunity to, okay, so he's not online, but he's on the telephone. We have Commissioner Gonzalez joining us. No? By phone?
I was told he was gonna call the conference.
Okay, so sorry. He's going to call the conference line. Okay, I'm going to wait for that.
So I don't,
But just to clarify, and by the way, we've been joined by our county attorney. She was covering another matter a very important matter for the county, and she had her first assistant sitting in the chair, but she's here, and maybe we can also address some of the issues that might have come up. But just to be clear, we're waiting for him to call in. And
but he can't even like participate since there's no video. So, and then Commissioner Morris is now gone, so he's not going to hear everything. So,
hold on one second. Timothy. Mr. Dowling, I see you've got your hand up, and I'm just kind of waiting to see if I get lucky and Commissioner Gonzalez here calls in. We did visit with his assistant and provided a number. I want to call on you, but I think in the interest of not repeating, we're going to wait just a minute.
Oh, yeah, that's fine, Judge. I just want to let you know
Okay.
at some point when you think it's appropriate, just want to make a few remarks.
Of course. And while we're waiting, I'll just share with you what I was talking about with Michael Gibson, who's here. We were talking about Field of Honor, and if you didn't get a chance for the next 3 weeks, we're going to have, by the way, just for the clerk, I'm not gavelled in yet, so. Well, I guess I did. I gave you the time. Well, sorry. I'm making public comment about Field of Honor. Okay, is that all right, Kara? Thank you. Because we have protocols. So anyway, I'm in my public comment about Field of Honor. It was really beautiful yesterday, but I also want to make some comments about the Veterans Cemetery because Mr. Gibson and I were just about to talk about that also in public comment. So just to be very clear, yesterday, the Veterans Cemetery did not have any Veterans Cemetery members, of the Veterans Land Board or Nueces County there, although JJ was in the area, because it's a state holiday. And so as a state holiday, we need to change this, by the way, they didn't have their crew. And because their crew wasn't there, the bathrooms were locked. Once we found out about it, concerned citizen called us. We literally ran over there, and we were real close by, like 5 minutes away, because we were at the Field of Honor in Robstown. And our Veteran Service officer made sure that those amenities were open. We've now realized that local control matters, right? Because now we know, hey, we can't do that. So we're gonna start a campaign to make that change. And I think in Nueces County, my intention would be to also bring that up in a future agenda item so that we could provide overtime, so that we could have a complete, because it was a holiday for Nueces County too. So in order to have full staff at the Veteran Cemetery, we're gonna need to adjust for that at the state level and at the local level. Secondly, flags on the headstones. So Barbara Canales, JJ De La Cerda, Maggie Turner was there, and two other witnesses, including HR Director Julie Guerra. We asked for the headstones to have flags. We were told that the state did not want to do that. They wanted to reserve that for Memorial Day, and they gave us permission. Even though we have local control, guys, we follow state rules and guidelines. They gave us permissions to put flags on the exterior of the perimeter. And that's all we were given. We told them that we didn't think that was a good idea. I personally asked a lot of veterans yesterday, because I'm always trying to learn protocol, understand it. And we believe that everybody in that cemetery is a veteran. You know how we know? You can only be buried there if you're a veteran, right? Except for their spouses as well. But as far as the veterans go. And so Memorial Day is for those killed in action, and we can honor those differently. But I think if you're going to have a veteran cemetery, you ought to be able to have flags on Veterans Day. This is what we call common sense. So I've spoken to the Veterans Roundtable. I put a call in that I didn't get a return call just yet. Obviously, there was Veterans Cemetery events all over. So the minute I bet they get in their office, they'll see it. We'll address it, and we will rectify it. And that's why we fought so hard as a court for local control. Because if we weren't in charge locally, we would have no standing. Now we've got standing. So I want to say that we feel like you do, that we should have had flags on the headstones, and we need to make that happen at the state level. And we feel like we need to, even though it's a holiday, create some crew that will work, just like we do at the sheriff's office. We have holidays all the time, but we have an overtime crew there. Because it's very foreseeable on Veterans Day that people would want to access their loved ones, the location of their loved ones, which is the Veteran Cemetery. So I hope that helps in answering your questions. I know that Commissioner Hernandez went out there.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And I want to say thank you to him for that, because this is how it works. You call, we answer, we fix it. And so we did fix those bathrooms immediately, because that was under our ability. But we'll need to work together, because it's in your precinct. We've got to write letters.
Yes.
Probably need to pass a resolution, and we need to ask the state to reconsider that protocol.
I believe so, Judge.
And I'm going to sign you up for public comment.
Okay. Got it. Thank you very much, Judge. Yes, as soon as I got the call, I went out there. And thanks to Ms. Hernandez here, also let us know what was going on. And I did speak to some people that had come from San Antonio. It was a mother and daughter, and her husband was cremated. And the thing she told me, maybe JJ can look after this, the letters on his stone are fading away. the
Okay.
paint. So we need to address all those concerns that they did bring up. And and I was talking to a family member apologizing because they were having to change their baby on a bench. That's when JJ drove up and opened up the restrooms. But yes, we do need to address some concerns, and we need to get them fixed. I was surprised that the office was closed, that we didn't have anybody in there to answer questions, or, So, and JJ said that they've always been closed, but I myself worked at a funeral home, and I worked services, and we have services on weekends there, and it's always been open. So there's something that we need to get with JJ and get all this.
Right, and like I said, we tried, right? We met with them a week before and said, this is not going to be a good thing for our community. And they said, well, this is the rule. So it's really a state issue. JJ is your advocate. He wants exactly what you just said. And I think that we can get that accomplished by working together. And I know that the state would always listen to us. So again, we did ask. Sometimes when you know there's going to be an issue, you go ahead of it, and we did. But now that they're going to hear from you, the public, I hope that this will make a big difference. And like I said, we're going to visit with the roundtable. Just finishing up on the Field of Honor while we're waiting, but I would ask somebody to please call him.
Checked with,
Sandra, one more time, please.
And I'll check with her.
One more time. On the Field of Honor, it'll be up for a few more weeks. And it's at the Borchard Fairgrounds. We had an awesome crowd. We had an amazing ceremony. We had a flyover from the U.S. Coast Guard. Commissioner Modis was there, and that was wonderful. But it'll be up. So if you've missed it, you can go. There'll be a master book. And so if it's your loved one that has a flag there, it'll tell you section, row, and number. And so that's really very, very special. And then if your veteran doesn't have a flag, but you want him to be honored in the future, we're going to honor them under just the service flag. So you don't have to pay, you can just have your name. And so we're working on that too. It was really, really beautiful, and I got to help post the first flag with the widow, and I stood back and I watched that sunset and her look up at the sky and the flag waving, and I have to tell you, it was as beautiful as it could possibly be. And I just think that sometimes you have to stop and be really proud of things that you bring to the forefront. I'm so proud of Edward Herrera, Inland Parks, Jay and his entire staff and crew, and JJ De La Cerda and his entire crew. But what gave me the most pride is when a Nueces County employee from the 4-yard came up and said, "I'm here because I'm a veteran and I want you to help me find my flag." That was the best feeling in the world. And I also want to say that Jenny Dorsey was there, and Judge Anna Klein, and Connie Morgan had her flag, and I got to see it wave. It's just very special. So if you get some time, and you don't have to have Veterans Day to love and honor our veterans, go out to the Field of Honor. And I'm trying to get the news crews out there again, because it was pretty late in the night when Maggie and I left, and we were still tying bows. And so it took a super long time to get all 1,000 up. So now from the media, go out there, because now it looks like the Field of Honor. If you went out when we started it, it was just a couple of flags. Now it's a sea of flags. And that's all I have on that matter. Did you want to say something about it?
No, I just really, I appreciate it, Judge. I think it's a great project for the county, and I appreciate all the work that everyone did on that, because it really looks like it's very special. I was out in Port A yesterday for Veterans Day,
Yes.
and it was an amazing deal, and I think everybody should remember all the time and every day that every day should be Veterans Day, quite honestly. I spent a lot of time reflecting on that yesterday, as people did in my company, and I know all the county employees did while they were out probably as well too. So it was a special day.
And the children make cards, right? Your kids made cards. The Port Aransas, the kids made amazing cards.
It's an amazing ceremony. I always hate to choose that one because there's so many good ones, and there's always one good one in Corpus too. But that Port Aransas one has always been special to go to, and they do an amazing job.
Well, I think it's important that we divide and conquer. You know, I mean, we're 5 in the court, and it's good for you to be in Port A, and for some of you to be at at Veterans Memorial High School, and Commissioner Modis was in Robstown in the morning, and I was at the mayor's event at Ben Garza. In other words, this is how it's supposed to be. Kara was at Ben Garza with me, a county clerk. So I like the way we do it, because it means that we're representing everywhere. Yes, do we have some good news?
Commissioner Modis just joined.
Great. Is he by Zoom? Okay. Well, I just remind everybody, the reason we recessed was to have Commissioner Gonzalez join, so I'm sorry that it's taking so long, but I do want to give him the opportunity. There will be a moment where we won't be able to proceed.
Judge, maybe let Mr. Dowling, I guess, say, I don't.
Do you mind if he says
We really spent a
something?
lot of time and done kind of nothing, so maybe if someone
Mr.
else-
Dowling, would you unmute? We're going to go ahead and let you proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. I got on a little bit late. About the first thing I heard were the comments by Mr. Thurman. And I agree with what he said. I think it was a very fair and open process on Wednesday night. And I know you all were very, very busy yesterday with the very commendable Veterans Day activities that you were doing. And you may not have seen the email that I sent to all 5 of you congratulating for the outstanding process that you employed, culminating in Wednesday night, which I think led to an outstanding map and a very, very fair and open process, which is very commendable. And for those who may be listening who may not have been quite as involved in this process, I want to make sure that everybody knew that the map that was approved on Wednesday started with map BB, but then we fixed it to end the split of Bishop, and it became map BBB, recognizing the Bishop. And then we also fixed the Robstown being split into different precincts. So 2 very positive changes. And then there were 2 precincts, 120 and 125, that were split. And we cut that down to 1. We got 120 whole into precinct 3. And then there was just 125. And to give some more population to Mr. Chesney, that was taken out of 120, line was moved in 125 to give him more people. So that's how we got the map that we got. And I've got a message here in the chat, and I got a call from Mr. Zamora a few minutes ago, and I understand the issue is that in little precinct 3, not the big precinct, not Mr. Mottas' precinct, but the voting precinct is in precinct 4, and that there's discussion about moving that into precinct 2. So I went back and admittedly in a bit of a hurry here in the break, trying to figure out in the prior maps, which maps had little precinct 3 in Mr. Chesney's precinct. And it looked like, from what I could tell, AA, BB, BB modified, A1, A1, and A2. Some of the early maps are a little hard to read, so I might be off a little bit. But anyway, a lot of maps that had that change in it from what it was previously. And I think the map for number 1 made it particularly clear that there was a change, and that little precinct 3, voting precinct 3, would be going into precinct 4. So that should not have been a surprise to anybody. And I know the law is that you can draw lines to protect incumbents. And the message I got in the chat was that there's a person who lives in voting precinct 3 who wants to run against Mr. Gonzalez. But there's no legal obligation to protect potential candidates. And the other thing, I guess, even apart from the legalities, with the court supposed to say something like, well, don't draw the lines this way because Mr. X lives in a certain precinct and he does, or he might want to run against a specific commissioner. I think that would be a very crazy process. And the map that was approved on Wednesday night, by my recollection, had the lowest population of any map we came up with. And it was a big improvement over all the other prior maps because of the outstanding dialogue the court had with the public and among yourselves. It keeps the rural towns intact, and there's only 1 voting split. So I think now to change it after the fact with this very good map, to my way of thinking, that would be pretty clear gerrymander, because the principles that were used to adopt the map on Wednesday were all the right principles. You know, keep areas intact, minimize population deviation. Those all make sense. So if we adjust the map to accommodate someone who would like to run against a particular person, to me, that would just be very partisan and unwise. And the thing that I found most distressing watching the legislature very closely when they did their redistricting, that's how they did it. And that's not a good way to redistrict. And we had ended up with, in my opinion, very unfair maps, arrived at a very non-transparent, unfair process. And what you guys did, culminating on November 10th, was extremely commendable. And so I would urge you to, I don't know what the motion is, if there is one, but yeah, my suggestion to you is I'm happy to hear what others have to say. I have an open mind on it. But if the motivation is to just change a precinct to accommodate a person who wants to run against a particular commissioner, to my way of thinking, that's an improper gerrymandering. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to give you these comments.
Thank you, Mr. Dowling. And I would just want to tell you two things. One, we have Commissioner Gonzalez on the telephone, and I would agree with 99% of what you said, except for one of the facts that you are making the assumption of is not correct. I agree with you. It was a great process because of all of the things that you articulated. I wanted to do exactly what we did. I actually left here thinking, well, that's novel. We actually did everything we set out to do. But when you get when you understand the background of the facts, what I'm saying, what I have heard public comment, and you missed that piece of it, is that my concern was, and now Mr. Gonzalez gets to hear my concern, is that it isn't about changing it back to include somebody. It was the transparency that it was asked to be removed to exclude somebody. It is the direct opposite. And there's nothing illegal about it. You just said it. I acknowledged it. But there's something that should have been articulated by a commissioner, because we have, in my opinion, certain duties and oaths. I also agree that candidates should study the maps. Everything you said is accurate. I don't know where people live. Only they know where they live. But the difference in the set of facts that you have is that if it comes to this court before it goes to retire, should at least acknowledge if somebody asked for it to be done, the public should know that, because that weighs into the confidence and the integrity of the process. What you did, all the public hearings expressed, absolutely 100% concur. I concur nothing illegal happened. I concur that it was a great process, but I would have liked to know, along with everybody else, that not somebody who wants to run, somebody who has declared that they are running, that this court did not, with knowledge, intentionally try to, quite frankly, stop the voters from making the decision. That is what we call a fair process. That was my concern. I wanted to have it out for open debate. Otherwise, people might leave here thinking that I was complicit in that. I don't want to have that on my record. If anybody else wants to have it on their record, they get to say, I'm okay with it. My purpose, Mr. Dowling, was say, I'm not okay with that, because I don't adhere to those types of concerns. Now, in fairness, and we'll get to hear from Mr. Garza, I called him. I would not have even brought it up had I not been 100% convinced. Let me say that again. I would not have even made public comment if I had not been 100% convinced that a commissioner asked for that at one time. If the maps were all transparent, they are. It's just a choice. It's all it is. It's just a choice. But the idea that it was asked for intentionally, not that the map maker came up with it, but that a commissioner asked the map maker at any point in the process, that should have been disclosed. That is what I object to. I don't have to disclose it. Nobody says it's illegal not to disclose it. But if we want to celebrate a process, then let's just all acknowledge what it is. And that was the concern that was brought up in public comment and my phone all day yesterday. And I don't want to have anyone thinking out there that I was a part of that, because I was not. And I would not, it doesn't jade me on the good work of the one man, one vote, or the minority population, or any of that great work that we did. But it does jade me on the process that there was something else at work. And
Did you want to ask?
That's all.
On Mr. Garza, because he said repeatedly no one has done
Yeah, I
that.
do. I want to ask
Okay,
him.
I mean, please, I'm
Mr.
anxious
Garza,
to
do
hear
you
that.
want to clarify, because you and I had a conversation, and I would not have brought it up if I had not been thoroughly convinced that at some point in the process, I asked you, did any commissioner, I think my question was like this, did any commissioner ask you at any point to make precinct 3 in precinct 4?
So let me clarify the process, because it has been, even though it has been a truncated process in terms of the time frame that we've had to deal with, it has been, on the other hand, a long process in that we have done a lot of work on these maps. And we've done as many as 6 maps. And so there were conversations early in the process. I was specifically asked about the plan that you adopted, Plan BB, modified with Bishop and Driscoll and the other modifications. And it is accurate when I said that no one told me to move any precincts in or out except those that were discussed in the public hearing. Early in the process, I was asked, or I was told, that Commissioner Chesney had agreed to take voting precinct 3. When I approached Commissioner Chesney about that, he said that he had not. If anybody understood that, they had misunderstood him. And he asked me, as he said in his email that he sent to me, that I go back to Commissioner Gonzalez and tell him that his position is that he did not want to accept any precincts unless he absolutely had to. And his preference was to accept none and to give up as little of his precinct as possible. So all of those things that have been said are correct, but I, at the early stages of it, and I impute no motive behind the suggestion that was made to me, but I was told by Commissioner Jag that Commissioner Chesney had agreed to take voting precinct 3. And that's sort of the truncated explanation of the occurrence. And if I've caused any confusion by the manner in which I have discussed these things, then I apologize to the court and to the public. But that's Plan BBB has been developed just as Tim Dowling explained.
And that is why, after learning that, it was important for me to make the comments that I made. And I do believe, and I want to make sure Commissioner Gonzalez hears me, I would like for you to at least consider retracting 3, because it denies the voters the opportunity to select who they want to represent precinct 2. And if you don't want to do that, there's nothing illegal about it. There's nothing that I can do about it except for just to acknowledge that I don't want to be a part of it. And I would do that for any of you.
So I think we need to pause a little bit too, because we've had what I consider a pretty unbiased opinion from Mr. Dowling saying to do that would be gerrymandering.
I don't think he had the facts as he
I-
just heard them. I'd like to hear his opinion.
It's a big ask to,
Okay, so what was gerrymandered was what was done. Okay, let's be very clear. I mean, what was done was a
no,
gerrymander.
Judge, that means you gerrymandered because you voted for it. So that was not gerrymandered. If in fact.
We had no
if in
knowledge of
fact-
it.
No, I agree. And if in fact, you don't want to say that you gerrymandered because you voted for that, because we did not gerrymander because we did not have.
Let me,
Let's be clear.
let's be clear.
Let's
Let
not
me
get
tell
ourselves
you
in a
what's
legal
clear,
box here.
is that you can't gerrymander a precinct that already existed inside a precinct. All right? Gerrymandering is when you take a precinct out of the precinct and you put it in for a favorable position.
But
That's
then-
what I'm just saying is 3 always, it's kind of confusing, right? Because it happens to be a single digit.
Right.
Voting,
precinct 3.
let's call it that. Voting precinct 3 always existed in 2. Precinct 2, all right? Yeah, let's say it that way, sorry. Commissioner Gonzalez's precinct. 3 was always there. All I'm saying is, leave it there. Because what we did was gerrymander. And I'm trying to correct that, because you wanted to keep your precinct as much intact as possible. You argued vehemently for it. We even sliced it better for you in the open process. We kept 120 together. We sliced only 125 to the extent that it didn't mess up too much the deviation. We got as many people in there to help you keep as many people. You accepting new people
Welcomed. I mean,
was welcome only
Not because
not because you wanted it, but because that was the will of the court.
Right.
Look, I'm not here to change anything. I'm here to create awareness,
No, and what I'm just
You
saying is,
know?
Judge, I think,
because I didn't know. And I bet that it would have maybe made a difference if some of us had known. I'm only allowed to talk to one commissioner, and in the recess, I spoke to Commissioner Hernandez, and he told me, I didn't know. I mean, you're welcome to speak for yourself, but I mean,
but let me go back to
I
the
want to make sure that people know who knew and who didn't know, what was going to be the effect of the map.
And
That's
let me-
what we're here for. That's what people fight in lawsuits for, the effect, the consequences. How does it affect you, permanently?
And so when we had the conversation, when Mr. Garza and I had the conversation, and asking to do that, and I said, and I did not know who lived in that precinct.
Fair
right?
enough.
And he made it very clear that I refused that precinct.
He said it.
Okay, so, clean hands over here, right? I want to make that clear. My concern is now what we're doing, because we've done this, the unintended consequence happened, and now, and I'm posing this to Tim too, now if we change what we've already done and signed as an order, are we not reverse gerrymandering and really putting our, I'm asking Mr. Dell, I'm just saying.
I hear you.
Because we really now are saying, even though this was publicly done and that precinct 3 was in 5 maps, and I screamed and yelled about not taking that precinct, and I didn't get anywhere on it, and it was very transparent, the whole process was out there.
Did you ever talk to Gonzalez about that?
No, I did not. Because I talked to Matas during the process.
Did you think he just assumed that you would be okay with it when he told Mr. Garza that you had agreed to it? Isn't that weird?
I don't know what anybody assumed. What I told Mr. Garza was, I have no recollection of any conversation, and and that's what I told him then, and I have no
I hear
desire
you.
to keep that. So that's exactly.
And that's what
I've
the email
said.
reflects.
Right, and that's what the email reflects. I have absolutely no recollection of this. I have absolutely no conversation with Commissioner Gonzalez during this process. As soon as I was approached by, I thought I approached him actually, but he said he approached me, that's fine. I just said, I do not have any recollection of that conversation. I have no agreement with that conversation, and I do not want that precinct.
I understand.
I'm happy to get it if I get it, and I love those people. I'm not trying to, but I wanted to keep what was in my precinct, so that's very clear. So, but to me, this feels like going back and now gerrymandering. To me, it would, if the option would not be just to amend, you'd have to start all over again because.
No, you don't have to start all over. We made
Okay. No, I'm
Bishop
asking Mr.
102.
But during the process. we
Right,
did it,
but I asked that question of our counsel, and he said we could amend. Look, I'm not even advocating amendment fully until it's fully discussed with our attorneys. But what I'm telling you is that if you don't think it's important that the people know, I think that is what, and
I think, look, Commissioner
and I'm
Gonzalez should
hoping,
respond.
I can't wait. I was thinking, where's 3610 Univision Telemundo? Don't you want to know that something,
Judge, well,
you know,
maybe
here they
Commissioner
finally
Gonzalez-
come.
If Commissioner Gonzalez wants to say anything, he can. I'm
Oh,
not
yeah.
gonna say- I don't
Well,
want to- 'cause-
go ahead. Commissioner Gonzalez?
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm going to put a mic on it. Actually, hold on one sec. Go ahead, Connie. We're testing a mic. Go ahead.
Test, 1, 2, test.
Yeah, we got you now. Stay there, Connie.
I don't know, whatever happened to Mr. Garza and I, we talked about, I never knew where my opponent, resigned. I still don't know where he resigned exactly. I don't know where he votes. Now that I do now, because it's an issue. But at that time, I had told Mr. Garza that I think that I had 2 precincts in my area. They were, that probably could help. If I had heavy Republican, and maybe he can look at my area and just see what we can move out. So you can make it a little bit more demographic, a little more minority, and probably make it a little stronger for the future. That's one was in Chesney's area, I think both of them would have been in Chesney's area. Because our border Chesney all the way around. So, but other than that, that's the only thing I don't know. And then Mr. Garza told me that Chesney didn't want. He didn't want any precincts. He drew map CC, and and that's what happened, I guess, because of that. Because Chesney didn't want anything else moved from his precinct. So, other than that, I just it happened the way it happened. You seem to have all the answers, Judge. You always think that we do things for different reasons, and it's always you that know that whatever you say thinks it's the right way. But and I think you're wrong. I think you're wrong on this one. Whatever you feel. I mean, and I'm going to tell you the process we have was a good process. We have professional people that we hired to do the job, open court. People had a chance to digest and come back and talk about it, and I never saw my opponent there. I never saw, anybody there to question different things, and the maps are there, and the maps have the numbers, so I don't know what happened. Nobody seemed to catch anything, whatever. To go back, it's like setting a precedent, to me, that now anything goes wrong, or somebody doesn't like something, we're going to come back and change it. It's just like the one thing, the Martyrs, we went back and changed Martyrs again, and it was something that he needed, so we changed it. But that was all was done in open court, and everybody had the opportunity to speak in open court. Other than that, we voted 5-0. You voted for it. Whether you knew about it or not, whether you pay attention or not, it's a different story, right? I mean, if somebody wants to run for office, they need to get involved. They need to get involved on what's going on the process. If you really want to run and want to be considered, then I think you need to be involved on the whole process. But I mean, as far as me knowing that was his precinct at the beginning, I did not know that. So I always thought he voted with me in 116, but later on I found out he didn't after we did the vote. But other than that, Judge, I just at this point, from what I've heard, I don't think we did anything wrong. Everything was ethical, everything was legal. And I just want to move. I want to move forward. I mean, I'm really disappointed the fact there's some people there that spoke this morning. I got phone calls too. You're not the only one that got phone calls. I got phone calls from a lot of people, and those people, some people that were there speaking, really surprises me because when they needed help more than once, they were knocking on my door, and they know who they are, and in fact, most of them were, so it's just about, if you want to, more than anybody else, it's a different animal here, we got to be on top of things if you want to run for something, so, I think the vote's there. I don't want to go backwards. I don't want to set a precedent. So I think we need to move forward.
So if I asked Mr. Garza if you had discussed with him whether or not it was legal to carve out a political opponent, what would you say he would say?
I'm sorry?
Did you ask Mr. Garza whether or not it was legal to carve out a political opponent?
Why don't you ask him?
Well, I'm asking you if
Why don't
you,
you ask him? No, you don't have to ask me. Ask him.
okay.
You seem to have all the answers.
Well, I just think that,
Judge,
that I'll defer to him.
Well, Judge, if you want to ask Commissioner.
I will.
Gonzalez.
And if Mr. Garza said that you said that Mr. Chesney had agreed, and Chesney said he hadn't agreed, how would he get that idea?
Judge, how are we supposed to know those? I mean,
I don't know.
ask Mr.
I don't know
Garza,
what
how are we
you're
supposed to
talking
know
about.
how he gets an idea?
I'm talking about whether, if Mr. Gonzalez told Mr. Garza that.
Talk about has nothing to concern with you. You're not a commissioner. You're a county judge. You run countywide. I don't know why you're so concerned about the commissioner's district. I mean, I understand you're the judge and you're there. But, I mean, we're doing the commissioners redistricting, precincts. And sometimes, you cut somebody's line. I mean, last time I was sent 3 precincts down So hopefully, I guess I would be voted out, and I wasn't. So, it's, everything changes for a reason, and there's a cause. So, you can, I know, I really don't want to, I don't think we should take this any further. There's already a vote been taken, 5-0, and I think we can move on.
Yeah, well, I just want to answer, the reason I'm concerned is because I promised the people to be fair and to be open
Well, I
and
promise
to
the
be
people too that have been
transparent.
calling me that I would be fair and still represent them.
Right, so what you missed earlier is that the people who called my office and the people who came here today feel that because the way the way you relayed that initial conversation to Jose Garza, and the fact that he was a political opponent, they feel like this court endorsed voting, that this court endorsed in voting for the map, Xing out your political opponent. And I think that it was the transparency. We wanted to hear from you that that was not what you were doing, because that is what the question is were you trying to, there's nothing illegal about it.
We can be here all day long with you, and I
Okay.
think I've already said what I'm going to say. We need to move forward. I don't want to change my vote. It's a 5-0. You voted for it. We had a professional person do it. The people that was there supported it. They've had a standing ovation. People that were there today didn't go to any of the meetings, weren't there, and neither was my opponent. So that's all I got to say. I mean, I just don't. I'm off today. I'm going. I got to go where I got to go, and that's it. So I'm just telling you what I feel. That's it.
No, we appreciate,
Thank you.
we appreciate that. Okay. So, Alisa Gonzalez, you have your hand up.
Yes. Judge Canales and everybody who is present, I really feel that this process that you are going through is really important because there has been too much glossing over of the effects of partisan gerrymandering. And even if everybody voted for the map without seeing that implication of that particular District 3, even if that was done by mistake, it's really, really important what you're doing here. It's really setting precedents, and it's given a lot of hope to a lot of those of us who are put off with how the whole process is so not transparent. And this is really an important thing to be addressing. So I just want to commend you for pushing on that point over and over again. I think it's completely admirable. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, this is, as they say, sometimes, I guess, is 2021, I guess we'll live in unprecedented terms, the way 2020 was unprecedented for health. I wish I did have all the answers. I heard he said, I have all the answers. I don't have all the answers. What I do know is that what you do is you bring it in a public, you shine a public light on it. And you allow the people to speak, which we did here. And I agree with Commissioner Modis. I wish that there was a way that we could broadcast it so that more people could give input. But I'm lucky that the people that were here giving the big input have joined us online. And I'm lucky that all the commissioners have found a way to participate in one way or another, so that none of us can say that we didn't have a part in the process. But again, it's a little heart sickness for me that I thought we had done something so well, only to reveal that the effect of our map it's not about favoring a person, guys. It's about democracy. It's about voting. It's about letting people decide, not, map makers, because they're being told to do something that they think is innocent. It's about that. It's about finding truth. And I want to thank everybody for coming here today. I was asked by Mr. Dowling in the chat, what would that do to the deviation? Mr. Dowling, what you didn't get to hear earlier is that when Jose Garza was on, I wanted to at least have the court go on record, because that's the only way you can make electeds accountables. You have to say yes or no in life. You have to choose right for you, for what you think is right. And so what I had suggested was asking the question of Mr. Garza, if you put 3 back where it was in the beginning. Remember, everybody here on the opposite side voted for minimal change. Remember that, guys? Minimal change, minimal change. What I was suggesting was that if 3 goes back to where it was, and more of 1, 2, 5, which was already in precinct 4, minimal change, would that hurt our deviation, our ethnic minority population? Mr. Garza said no. So again, I'm not expecting to change anything here. I am expecting to shine a light on it. And shining the light allows all of us to be responsible for our own actions. And again, on Wednesday, yes, when all the facts were not revealed, but if I had made the call to Mr. Garza, I'll be honest with you, and the answer to my question of who asked you to change these maps at any time, and was there a discussion of, can you X out a political opponent? If those had been, nobody asked me, and nobody asked me, I would have said, we're okay. Somebody dropped the ball, perhaps on that other side, if he's mad about it, but we did the right thing. All of the facts were on the table, but those were not the answers to my question. And that's why I thought this forum owes it to ourselves and the people to say, do you want to do anything about it? You don't have to do anything. We didn't do anything illegal or wrong. I didn't do anything, but you have to answer once you know the effect of the consequences. But let's be clear, I wish I had the right answer, but I can only make a motion. That's all, that's the power that I have, as well as the power of everybody else. And so I am going to make a motion based on Mr. Gonzalez. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Gonzalez, I apologize. Elisa Gonzalez.
I just want to say that's why it is absolutely important that there be built into the system a way of changing things if we find that there's a problem with the map.
Yeah, and just so you know, in other elections, there are waivers for residency, okay? They are ways to cure it, but we don't have that here. And so that is how, but if somebody comes to me and says, you denied me my right to choose, and you did so, and I didn't know about it, well, then I didn't know about it. But if I know about it, and I don't bring it up, then I'm complicit there. So again, commissioners, I'm sorry it provides angst, but there's a motion, I have a motion to at least, I think the proper way to say it is to amend the map that we adopted, which is BBB, modified, only to restore the original precinct 3 and restore more folks to precinct 125, which it doesn't change either. And for those of you that online and we're here in public that adopted A, I cannot imagine what the argument is other than, because that is going back to that minimal change. But we are doing so because we did not have, because the effect to do nothing and to keep it the same is to reward the Xing of political opponents. And that is wrong, in my opinion, no matter who you are. If I had it, if you had it, I mean, Isn't that the essence of fighting for something that you believe in? That, I mean, you would do it for anybody, that you have to endure hate speech to defend the flag? I mean, that's how I was raised. At any rate, that is a motion, and the way it works in Commissioners Court is you need a second to move on. Is there a second for that motion? And I would say subject to and contingent upon Mr. Garza giving you all the information. You should never vote on anything that would not have Mr. Garza's, numbers and all of the things that are associated with, just like we did when Mr. Gonzalez said, hey, I didn't realize that Bishop was going to be cut up. Remember when he said that? My bad, I didn't know it. I want to fix it on Wednesday. Same thing, we asked for Mr. Garza to help create those maps again, create the numbers before we voted on it. Same thing for Commissioner Chesney's 125 and 120. I feel that that's important. So my motion is made upon the contingency of all of us being provided that information. But we don't do so because we did anything wrong in the legal process. We don't do so in this motion because we did anything wrong in the apparent process. But we do so because we do not need to subscribe to a non-transparent process. And I would ask for a second. No, I wish. No. Okay, so hearing no second.
I'm sorry, I was on mute, I'm sorry. Yes, I make a second for that. I would
Okay.
like some discussion on this item.
All right, thank you. I have a second, so that allows us to have further discussion. And I really do want to hear from you, commissioners, because I know that
Judge, I want to remind you, Commissioner Gonzalez can't vote on this today because he's not here and has no video. So he can't even vote on this process. That's number one. Number two,
Well, can I finish first? I know you have some
I
questions.
apologize.
but
I'm sorry, John.
I made a second and I wanted to have some discussion. So.
Sorry, go ahead.
I hear what everything is being said, and this is a lot to take on, and I'm not saying that necessarily I'm in favor of this motion. I want some more discussion, right? I know we spent a lot of time on this, and I'm with you, Judge, with everyone. I think we all thought Wednesday that was it. But for what's being asked today, I'd just like to ask Mr. Gata, what does that look like? What will this request include? How does that change the numbers? Because I know we spent a good amount of time talking about just swapping out and moving precincts from here to there, and that has a bigger picture look at how it impacts all the areas. So what does that mean? Obviously, you're not with us in court today, but do you still have access to those numbers? I'm not saying that's, like I said, I'm not saying that that's where I'm going, but I would like to know also, you just have that information available, because that to me seems like a lot of moving parts if this were to pass.
So I haven't, that's an excellent question, Commissioner, and I haven't looked at this possible change in any detail. I did discuss with the court earlier that I believe that it's possible to move voting precinct 3 into Commissioner precinct 2 and move an equal amount of population from precinct 125, which is split, to move some of that population to offset the moving of 3 into precinct 2, so that the population numbers remain about where we've got them now with this excellent level of deviation. I believe that that's the case. We haven't tried doing that, and I just texted with my office, because I am not in the office where the where the redistricting work happens, but I texted with them just 2 minutes ago, and the response I got was that they are on a Zoom call with Hidalgo County, which apparently has an emergency that has come up in their redistricting process. Now, I don't know how long that's going to take. I haven't heard back from them in order to confirm that. I can do some of that work manually here from my home office and give you a rough estimate like I did Wednesday before we were able to get the redistricting office online. But my guess is that, yes, those things can be done in terms of balancing the population and maintaining a fairly similar minority concentration between the districts. The voting precinct 3 in terms of racial composition is probably pretty close to the same composition as some of that population in 125. So it would be, my guess is a fairly even trade-off.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Hernandez, do you have any questions for Commissioner Modis or?
No, I don't, Judge. I voted,
I'm sorry, I said Commissioner Modis. I meant Jose Agarza. Apologize.
no, the reason I voted the way I did, just as, like we all did, because we went by Mr. Garza's judgment, what he told us, and I had no reason to disprove and I went by his guidance and I approve of it. So I don't have any questions for him.
Okay. And Commissioner Chesney, I think we cut you off,
Yeah.
not intentionally.
No, that's okay. It's fine. Judge, I'm just not comfortable with this whole process. Commissioner Gonzalez isn't here. He can't vote. I'm concerned about the gerrymandering conversation with Mr. Dowling. I think to amend now, it's obvious that we're amending simply to put somebody back in a race that was not intended to be left out of a race. I think that is gerrymandering at its finest. And so to just simply amend is not something I can support.
Were you supportive of getting all of 125 back on Wednesday, or is that my imagination?
Judge, that's not the point. There was,
No, but,
during the whole process, I mean, I can't, to go back, I'm just,
but
I'm
didn't
not
you want to keep
comfortable.
your precinct intact?
Of course I do, and I made that argument repeatedly, and I desperately
Right,
tried,
so
and
if-
it didn't
if-
go anywhere. But now it just seems to be, this is an attempt just to gerrymander, to put this back to where Larry Elizondo can run against Joe Gonzalez, and I'm not comfortable. I'm not comfortable with that. I didn't have anything to do with the way we got here. That was made clear on the record. I'm sorry that we got here. Larry's my friend. Joe's my
They
friend.
used you in it.
Let me finish. Larry's my friend. Joe's my friend. And I'm sick that we're in the middle of this thing.
Mm-hmm.
I've talked to Larry about this, and I have not talked to Joe about this. I've talked to Larry about this. I am not getting in between this, and that is what this is. This court is being asked now to make a decision to help Larry Elizondo get back in the race, and I don't think that would be something Larry would want to do in the sense of just asking the whole court to be put in that position. I don't think it's fair. I think it is gerrymandering if we change this like Tim Dowling said, because because this court did not intentionally take this precinct out and give it to me. Maybe there was a conversation between one commissioner and the redistricting attorney, but this
Maybe?
court-
I think it's
No,
been
no.
confirmed.
Well, no, Commissioner Gonzalez did not say it went the same way, so maybe there was. Okay, let's say there was.
I'm going to ask that question, but I wanted him to
Finish
go
my
on the
turn. I've let
record
you
first.
talk for an hour
Okay,
today.
okay,
Can
go
I just
ahead.
finish, please,
Sure.
one time?
Go ahead.
And so let's say for argument that happened, but this court as a whole did not know, and we did not intentionally take him out. This court did not do that. You didn't do it.
I didn't do it.
Hernandez didn't do it. And even if Gonzalez did, he's one person and the rest of us did. If we now change it back, then the entire
it right.
court is complicit
In making it right.
in gerrymandering. And I'm not going to be complicit in gerrymandering.
Yeah,
I'm
I
sorry.
think we
Not
use
just-
these
I'm not gonna just
buzzwords
amend.
and
I
to
get
make
it.
sure that, people
not
think you're doing something. The only gerrymandering that happened was this way to that way, not the opposite.
You voted for a
but-
gerrymandered plan.
No,
sure
I did not have that knowledge. If I had known a commissioner had asked to remove his political opponent, I would have never agreed to that. I wouldn't do that for you. I wouldn't do it for
And neither would I.
Gonzalez or anybody. But just so you know, it was done in Bear County. It's
Very
been
outward.
done all over
It
the
was done very
community.
outwardly there. They did it. And
They did it outwardly in Bear County. That's why I'm saying, nobody's saying that it's not illegal. But there is something wrong, amiss, nefarious about it. And what I was wanting the opportunity to discuss with everybody is go into it eyes wide open. There's not gerrymandering if you're correcting gerrymandering, for heaven's sakes. I mean, use common sense and logic. What somebody did,
gerrymandering is an intentional act. This court
After-
did not take an intentional act, Judge. You're continuing to make it look like
No, I
we passed a
think
plan
that
that
there
was
is-
illegal, and we didn't. This court
Okay, let me
did
ask the
not
question.
gerrymander. This would be gerrymandering.
No, it
Judge, you're a
wouldn't.
lawyer. Yes, it is. Gerrymandering is an intentional act. It is an intentional act, and this court did not take an intentional act. It
so
stinks
just
that
to be
this
very
happened.
clear,
But this
and
did-
again, I didn't do this.
Gerrymandering to do what you're
It's
proposing.
not. It's not, and you're just using buzzwords so that somehow it winds up on the 6 o'clock
It's
news.
called legal words,
But-
Judge. It's called
No, it's-
legalities. Tim Dowling, who came in here as an unbiased person, rendered
Tim
an
hasn't heard
opinion.
all of the comments.
He
Anyway,
has. He's
I'll
heard
recognize Commissioner Modis at this time.
Thank you, Joe. I just wanted to weigh in. I know everybody kind of had a chance, and I don't think I've had a chance here. I was not aware of where Mr. Elizondo resides, not aware that it was a voting precinct 3. That conversation never came up with me or anyone else on this court, especially Commissioner Gonzalez. I approved and felt Wednesday that we had a great map that was put together. From what I recall, I thought we had map versions that included precinct 3 in the boundary and not in the boundary. And I went with what I heard a majority of the people say that night, which was BB. And we made some minor changes, tweaks to that. I made them in my precinct because I was losing out on a precinct voting box that was in precinct 3 that had a community of interest in Morristown and an area in my neighborhood. And I didn't want to make it seem like I was trying to take on more of my neighborhood. So I just left it as is and just asked to keep the map as it was on that part, which was voting precinct 59 in precinct 1 in Commissioner Hernandez's area, and precinct 105, which is Boston, continue to remain in my precinct. But those were, to me, the only areas that I really focused on. I did not, and don't make it a habit of looking who's in those precincts or not. Maybe I had an opponent that plans to run from one precinct, and I moved them back in, and maybe I moved them out. But I don't know. I don't know who's running, right? So I had that fortune, at least, and I know that's becoming an issue, but that was never an issue for me. I'm like Commissioner Chesson. I know and respect and feel I have good relationships with Larry Elizondo and Joe Gonzalez. They're both considered friends, and I've served with him for each coming year. And it's not about one candidate or the other. I hope, my hope would have been that if this was an issue, it would have been caught when we were voting on Wednesday before we had our deadline, or at least what I thought our deadline was there. Right. So that would have been my only hope, was to hear it. And sometimes it takes a while for people to realize what's going on, but these were public meetings. And so not knowing that there was an issue there, I think had it been brought up to us, then maybe it was something to consider. But I did not know anything about that until recently. Like I said earlier, my knowledge was this was just going to be a discussion on canvassing the vote and nothing else, because we have taken our full action on Wednesday. So I feel that this is a process that we went through. I know I went through it in an unbiased manner. I know there was no influence put on me. I wish there would have been more interest from the community.
Yeah.
And from the public. And I'm thankful on Wednesday, at least we saw an increase. And I know that there's some even today as a result of all this. But I trust in the maps that were created by Mr. Garza. I don't know what took place between him or any of the commissioners. But I feel confident and comfortable with what we approved. I feel that if we go and change one area, we really need to look at going and changing everything. Do we have the time to do it? And, I wish I could see them in person. I can't make myself available this afternoon. But I do not have, unless there's something legally that says
Would it-
if this place was illegal, then nothing's going to change for me. I'm just, I think our vote was taken. I don't even know, do we even legally have to take another vote today other than just what's here? But I don't see anything else that would tell me to change how a vote was today. Now, if there's something else and somebody needs to take legal recourse with them, they need to do what they need to do. But I feel my vote, based on what I did, my own research, it was all about my precinct.
Yeah.
I knew nothing else about anything or anyone else. It's unfortunate that we're at this point. And
would it matter to you, Commissioner, if you knew that it was intentional or not? If you had the opportunity like we do today because of a little bit of luck that we posted it and the same exact verbiage exists today as Wednesday? Because that's my dilemma in my heart on ethics, is that we happen to have the opportunity. Most people don't ever get a chance to right the wrong. But we do because of the verbiage that actually you posted to protect the court on another matter. And so my concern is if this was done intentionally, and I'll be honest with you, that is what makes it different. I agree with you. You were worried about your precinct, and I was worried about constitutionality and ethnicity and all the right things we're supposed to work on. But once I knew and learned that it was done with intention, it changed for me. It's no longer my ability to say I did right. I did right on Wednesday. I did right. All of us, the ones that have spoken, that said we didn't know. But if you know now that it was intentional, that changes it for me. And that's what I wanted to make certain of. I hear you. There are, our maps are constitutional. That is what we should celebrate, that they are constitutional. But what I do not want the citizens of this community to even to accept is that one of us had the intention of doing that which might be legal, but is certainly should not be condoned by good officers of the court. I mean,
And that's why I seconded this motion, Judge, just to allow us to have more discussion on that. I don't know if I've heard today was any of this intentional or illegal. If someone can tell me that, if a county attorney or someone can tell me that right now, then obviously it's to me, then we must change. But if it was,
well, I hate to put him on the spot, but I will, because I tried my hardest to do it without, because I don't believe that it puts people in a terrible position to have to say something that's not favorable or kind or, but the truth is the truth. And the reason I know what the answer is because I know Mr. Garza to be a very honorable and a man of high integrity, and I've already asked the question. So like any good lawyer, I would never ask this question unless I knew the answer. And that's what pains me. It makes me want to cry. You think what you can throw out a word like gerrymandering and it makes it okay that Commissioner Gonzalez asked Mr. Garza whether or not Xing out a political opponent was legal or not?
But Judge, Commissioner Gonzalez said that wasn't the case.
I know, but I'm about to ask Mr. Garza.
Okay.
I've been trying to avoid that.
No,
Because I was
You've already
hoping
asked
Mr. Gonzalez would say something differently, but because I've already asked Mr. Garza about this,
You've already
he has
asked
to tell me the truth.
I think you've already asked Mr. Garza, but he said.
No, I haven't asked Mr. Garza right now. I'm gonna ask him on the on the Zoom.
Is he there? Looks like Mr. Rios is there.
Mr. Rios is here. And Mr. Garza, I'm going
Yes,
to try to
I'm
make
on.
this as fair as possible for you so that you represent all interests of the court. But at any time, did Commissioner Gonzalez ask the question as to whether or not it would be legal to, I would say, redistrict out a potential political opponent?
So, Mr. Gonzalez and I mentioned to Mr. Gonzalez that there was nothing illegal about axing out a potential opponent, whether that was in response to a specific question from him or whether it was in a general discussion with him. I do not honestly recall, but we did have a conversation about that. I think I've had that conversation with a number of people in the last few days, and my answer has always been that there is nothing illegal about that. So, Judge, I don't
That's fair.
recall specifically if he asked me pointedly that question or if it came up in the course of a conversation.
But he
that I was
understood
having.
that he could redistrict based upon your answer, somebody out.
He understood that there was nothing illegal about
Correct. Correct. Okay.
drawing a
So,
map.
again, that's what gives me the unsavory taste. It's not that we did something that the effect hurt somebody out there. Like you said, John, we don't know where people live. You could be Xing somebody out 2 years from now that said, I want to run against John Modis, right? I mean, these are things, but there are coincidences and then there is intention. And what we have here, in my opinion, is, at least understanding and knowledge and a request that resulted in an outcome. And all I'm asking is to take a vote to at least ask Mr. Garza to see what those changes would be. If it's the will of the court to do it, so be it. And if it's not, so be it. The fact that Mr. Gonzalez does not choose to stay on the phone is his choice. And he seemed very adamant that he did not want to change anything. He doesn't feel
Judge, I've got to
any
go
remorse.
too. This has gone on for hours longer than it was supposed to. Can we just, if you want to call the vote,
Sure,
can we
I'll
please
just
do it?
call the vote.
And, I mean, Commissioner Gonzalez wasn't even supposed to be here. I wasn't supposed to be here. I've got a funeral to go to.
Well, I
mean,
think
if you wanna
canvassing the
recess
vote
this,
for a
I mean,
constitutional
it
amendment
would've
was
taken-
important.
It took 10 minutes.
Well, we have to prepare for the
We've done it.
unexpected, and
We've done it.
apparently when there's
We've done it.
backdoor deals.
We've done it, and there was, okay, that's but again, for the record, Commissioner Gonzalez said that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So since he's no
And it
longer
was
here-
refuted
Okay, so there's
unequivocally.
he said, I get it, he said there was, he said there wasn't, so let's be fair in the assessment, he said he didn't do it, he said he didn't remember what it was. I'm not getting in the business of deciding if Mr. Garza is remembering correctly or Commissioner Gonzalez is lying. I'm not doing that.
Okay, I think we just did it. I will call the vote. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Not surprising, all those signifying opposite in opposition to the amendment, say no.
No.
Okay, everybody, that's all we have today. There's no executive session. And does anyone have any adjournments in memory? No, and, okay, we are adjourned. Kara, I hope you get to your game. It's 12:15 PM on the record, and we stand adjourned.